Hello, this is Bailey.
And this is Taylor. Welcome to Two Idiots, One Podcast. And before we start today, Bailey, I just want to talk about something.
Okay, what do you got?
I want to talk about gas prices. I want to talk about how ridiculous that they've been recently.
I haven't had a car in about a month, so I don't know anything about that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know a lot about that because I have to drive you around everywhere. So for those of you that are not in the state that we are in, and gas prices might be higher for you, and if they are, I'm sorry. But ours, it jumped up to $4.29. Like after Memorial Day, it just spiked from like 401, 402 to 429.
Well, I mean, the reason that gas prices and stuff go up is so that people are more this is obviously comedy, and I don't actually know. But the reason gas prices go up is to make it to where people aren't allowed to like leave their general area. So they become more indoctrinated into the whatever culture is currently prevalent in that area.
Whatever the culture is.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I mean, I don't even know what a good example that would be.
So like, for example, so you're driving your car, gas prices shoot up. Now you're stuck in an area that you've never been in before, having to live in your car. So now you're going to become more indoctrinated into that culture. So like, say you get stranded near a creek, you're going to become like a creek person. You're going to start like going out to the creek and casting your little like creek net and like playing in the creek water and just being a creek person because that's where your car ran out of gas.
So what you're telling me is when the zombie apocalypse happens, you're going to be the creek person?
If that's where your car runs out of gas.
So if it runs out on the highway, are you the highwayman? Do you build a civilization and say, you shall not pass, like Gandalf?
Well, no. If you run out of gas on the highway, then you become the zombie kill of the week when Woody Harrelson rolls up on you in his supermassive truck.
Oh, you mean his Cadillac?
Yeah.
Because that was a really great scene in the film that we're going to be talking about today.
What's that?
Zombieland.
Oh, shit. Zombieland?
Zombieland.
So that was the 2009 film directed by Ruben Fleischer, starring Jesse Eisenberg and Woody Harrelson and Emma Stone and Abigail Breslin, right?
Man, you stole all my thunder. You stole all of it. I don't even have anything to say. Yes.
No, I mean, I was just verifying that's the Zombieland we're talking about.
Yes, that is the Zombieland we were talking about. Are you trying to give me my thunder back? Is that what this is?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I was gonna say all that, and then you didn't say Emma Stone and Abigail Breslin, and I was like, that's it, that's my thing.
I paused so that you wouldn't think I was going to say it, and then immediately said it once I saw that you were primed to talk.
Yeah, obviously, like you stole all of my thunder. So all right, that's it. That's where we're at. Podcast over.
Bye.
No, but in all seriousness, what would you rate this?
So if I was going to rate it on a scale from 1
You're gonna raise it. You're gonna raise the roof.
if I was going to raise it, it would be a 13-year-old right now because it's 2022. But no, if I was going to rate it on a scale from 1 to 5, I would probably give it a 3.5. And the main reasoning for that is, which I've noticed I give a lot of things like 3.5s.
Yeah, you do.
But so the reason I would give this one specifically a 3.5 is I thought it was really funny. Like I wouldn't qualify this as a horror movie, but as more of like
a comedy.
Like a zombie comedy, kind of like Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
Like a zomcom.
Okay, so
Or Warm Bodies.
no.
Yeah, it's a zomcom.
Warm bodies. Never mind. That's different. That's a different discussion. That's okay. I don't know why you brought that up.
Because they're both zomcoms.
I mean, no.
I'm gonna get that TM'd, bro.
Okay, so 3.5.
Yes, and the reason is because I thought it was very funny. I thought it was pretty unique for the time, other than, it having a similar premise to Shaun of the Dead.
I mean, yeah, and I would almost argue that Shaun of the Dead is better, but...
I mean, I'm not trying to do like a comparison and contrast, but...
I am.
But I would say that because of this being after Shaun of the Dead, this would be a 3.5, whereas had it been prior to Shaun of the Dead, I would probably give it like a closer to a 4 or 4.5.
Okay.
But I thought it was solidly funny. I thought the runtime wasn't too bad. It was a little under an hour and a half. So like it doesn't take all day and it's got enough detail for you to like the characters, but not so much that you find flaws with them that annoy you.
So I do agree with you. I'm gonna give it the same 3.5, maybe a 4. I think that it's funny, but I think that I think it's a product of its time. I think there are a lot of things where if you didn't grow up in 2009, like that 2008, 2009 era, or basically the early 2000s, there are things that you would not understand that are in this movie. And some of like the funniest jokes in there are products of its era, which we'll get to.
Well, okay, so because you mentioned that, what specifically like do you have in mind?
Well, hold on, we gotta give it. I'll get to it. Don't worry.
Okay, I'm just excited.
So Roger Ebert gave it a 4.
That's a pretty solid score because I'm pretty sure that a 3 is his recommended.
Yes, I think 3 is recommended, which on the Roger Ebert scale. So if anybody hasn't like caught on to it yet, Roger Ebert does a very weird scale where he goes 0 to 4. On RogerEbert.com, when you look it up, he gave it 3 stars, which, we use our own scale, so fuck Roger Ebert. And we just bump it up. Our 4 is his 3. Same thing. It's a recommended movie. He thinks it's funny.
Right.
In case nobody caught that. Yeah, what do you like about it? Actually, before you do that, tell me about it. What's Zombieland about?
So essentially what Zombieland is about is Jesse Eisenberg, who is called Columbus in the movie, is a nerdy hypochondriac who doesn't have like an excessive amount of friends. It specifically mentions him playing World of Warcraft, which is fun because
it shows him playing World of Warcraft too.
Yes, but the reason it's fun is because there was a long period of my life where I spent a copious amount of time playing World of Warcraft, so it's relatable.
So you're Jesse Eisenberg?
Well, no, I'm not that cool, but...
Oh, okay.
But him playing World of Warcraft while talking about, like, not being super social is relatable. But, nerdy hypochondriac, and because of that, when the zombie outbreak happens, he was already moderately secluded so that he wasn't affected by it.
Right.
And he decides that he's going to, quest to get home. So he basically drafts up rules, which by the time the movie starts, he's narrating what has already happened. So by the time the movie starts, he already has these rules made up.
I'm going to quit asking you to do summaries, dear God.
I'm sorry. I'm not good at summaries. What would you do your 5-sentence summary for this?
Okay, so from now on, I'm just not going to have you do it. We're going to do 5-sentence summary. Okay. Destination names, Twinkies, Cadillac, because that's a big part. You got taken hostage by a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And Pacific Playland.
Okay, so all of that's fair, but I am going to say one thing.
Okay.
You're making it sound like Woody Harrelson's story, and this was not titled Tallahassee and the Quest for Twinkies.
Okay, so it should have been, because I would argue that is the whole premise of this movie.
I mean, it's the premise that I cared about. Like, I was more concerned with whether or not Woody Harrelson got his Twinkie than if Columbus made it to his family that he mentions not really caring about or being close to.
I mean, yeah, I think there were other deeper elements to it, but sure, yeah, that's the one that I care about more than anything is, does he get his Twinkie?
Yes.
So you wanna break it down and tell everybody our favorite scenes, what we liked and didn't like?
Sure.
So I'm going to start with the opening scene because I liked the opening scene.
I like the song that was playing during the opening scene. I thought it fit really well.
So the tone of this entire movie is set at the very beginning when you see the guy with his camera get attacked by the zombie, and the zombie eats him and then looks in the camera and starts picking out like flesh in his teeth and then burps. That to me set the tone for the entire movie where you're like, okay, this is not a typical zombie movie. This is like Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
And then, so I really like that. And then the opening montage with Metallica's For Whom the Bell Tolls playing in the background. As a metalhead, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I thought that was perfect.
So this is something that we that I'm sure you're aware of.
Mm-hmm.
But during the opening scene, there are characters that are reoccurring later in that you can see more additional like scenes with.
When he's explaining his rules, like you're talking about the bathroom.
Yeah, I'm talking about the bathroom guy who was also the gas station engagement ring dude.
Okay, yeah, I did notice that one. I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah, so I mean, so one interesting thing, or the thing that I think is really cool about that, is it shows that Jesse Eisenberg was already traveling in the same like area that Emma Stone and Abigail Breslin's characters, Orlando and Little Rock respectively, had already been through.
Okay, so does it ever explain their names? Because
I don't think it does. I'm pretty sure that when, because they all meet at the, the grocery store or...
I wouldn't necessarily say they meet there, but yes.
Well, I mean, is that not where they first encounter each other?
No, that's where they first get taken hostage.
Right, but aren't Little Rock and Orlando in there? And, Jesse Eisenberg and Woody Harrelson's character go in looking for Twinkies when they run into them and they're like, oh, you guys just happen to be in here too. And then Emma Stone's character's like, oh, my little sister's been zombified and I can't do anything about it because, you know, that would break my achy breaky heart.
Did you really just say achy breaky heart?
It's 2009. We're 2009 right here.
I mean, okay, continue.
But so, you know, that happens, and that's when they trick Woody Harrelson and Jesse Eisenberg into giving them their weapon, or giving them a weapon, and then, you know, turn it on to them. I'm pretty sure that's when they meet, right?
I mean, if that's your definition of meeting, then yes.
Becoming someone's hostage is meeting them. If it's the first time you've met them when they take you hostage. Like if someone comes into a bank to rob the bank, and you've just met the bank robber, even though you're their hostage now.
Yes? I mean, okay, I agree.
I mean, maybe not the most effective terminology, but yeah.
Probably not the most effective. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. But yeah, the opening monologue is great. Him explaining the rules are great. But I think the next scene that I like, which honestly, the first part of the movie I think had some of the best scenes. And probably my second favorite scene of all time is the hostess truck.
With those goddamn snowballs.
Goddamn snowballs. Well, I actually like them. It's not the taste. It's the consistency.
I just think Woody Harrelson's not a fan of coconut.
I mean, I'm not a fan of coconut, so like I understand that. I do think this movie has a lot of quotable moments like that too.
Well, so I know we're talking about scenes right now, but what's your favorite quote from this movie?
I'm not going to say it because apparently I've been saying it wrong all these years. But you know which one it is, so I'll let you say it because I didn't realize until before we started recording that I was saying it wrong.
So Taylor's favorite quote from this movie is, "You're a peppy little spit fuck, aren't you?" Whereas Taylor's brain has always interpreted it as, "You're a preppy little spit fuck, aren't you?"
Yes, I have been saying you're a preppy little spit fuck, aren't you, for, probably since 2009 when this movie came out. About 13 years I have said that line wrong and nobody has said anything about it until you're like, it's not the words. So thank you for educating me.
It's peppy, not preppy.
Okay, but you can see how I got those two.
Oh no, dude, yes, I do the same thing all the time. I literally do the same thing all the time.
I don't know. It was 2009. It was a different time back then.
Well, I've noticed that it's the same with like song lyrics, and this is a tangent, but we're going to come back real quick, I promise. I've noticed it's the same thing with like song lyrics and other movie quotes. The younger you are, the easier it is to misinterpret what it is because your vocabulary is not as large. So you probably, in 2009, you were what, like 12?
Yeah, I was 12.
So you probably didn't know peppy, like pep up.
No, I did because I used to watch Boomerang, the Boomerang Network, so Pepe Le Pew.
Had you recently played Bully, where preps are one of the enemy groups?
No, I actually didn't play Bully until I was an adult, which is ironic because I played GTA as a kid.
Man, it sounds like you might just be stupid as fuck. I was trying to toss you like a rope or a way out, and you were just like, herp derp, nope, I was just dumb as shit. Which is okay. I'm dumb too, if that makes you feel any better.
I'm sorry. There is no recovering from that one. You're right. I'm fucking stupid. Anyway.
No, I don't actually think that, Taylor. I'm just being mean because I think it would be funny for our listeners. I think you're a beautiful soul, and
this is how it is every day. Everybody's so mean to me.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I think I bring it on myself sometimes, so I accept it.
But my favorite quote from this movie is "Nut up or shut up."
That's your favorite rule?
Quote.
Rule.
No, "Nut up or shut up" is a quote.
Yeah, it's also a rule.
Is it a rule?
Yeah, it's a rule.
Which rule is it?
I don't remember, but it's a rule. Nut up or shut up.
I don't think it's a rule. I think it's just a quote.
Yeah, go ahead. Continue talking.
But so that's my favorite quote from it because when this movie came out, I was like 13 or 14. And I for sure said that during like a majority of my early teenage years whenever I was about to do something ignorant. Like I would use that as like the prompting phrase. Like I guess nowadays it's like YOLO probably. Is it YOLO or is that past?
That's past. It's not a thing anymore. It's
So nut up or shut up was my YOLO, and I don't know what the youngsters' YOLO is now.
Yeah, I actually don't know.
No, I have no idea. And then another scene that I really like.
Okay, you're right. It was not a rule.
I know.
I apologize. I thought it was.
No, it's okay. But a scene that I really liked was actually the first scene when Woody Harrelson rolled up on Jesse Eisenberg.
Their meetup.
Yeah, when they meet. And the reason I like it is because Jesse Eisenberg like sees Woody Harrelson coming and is like, "Oh, and he's like startled, so he like hides behind this car, and then when Woody Harrelson stops his vehicle, his Cadillac, and gets out, Jesse Eisenberg just lifts up like a little dirt bike looking thing and hides behind it like it's gonna do something.
Right.
And then immediately once he gets in the car, Woody Harrelson just looks at it and kicks it over. And that had me fucking rolling. And immediately after that, when Jesse Eisenberg throws the liquor out of the cup out the window.
When he's supposed to be taking the shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that whole like interaction between Woody Harrelson and Jesse Eisenberg was really good. And I think that they're a very good, I think they're a very good duo.
Yes, I think so too. I thought the chemistry between Tallahassee and Columbus was really good. I think they both played their characters extremely well, and you could tell that Woody Harrelson's character really did not like Tallahassee didn't like Columbus in the beginning at all,
and then really liked him at the end.
Yes, you can watch the growth where he's like, okay, maybe he's not that bad, but that's kind of like for everybody.
Well, that's one thing that this movie does really well, especially for it being like, you know, perceivably a shallow comedy, is there was legitimate character development in all four of the major characters.
Yes.
And a lot of movies don't really do that. It's more of just like a narrative showing you a slice of time to entertain you, but this is the same, but there's actual character growth and like deeper elements, which I thought were cool.
Well, and I would even argue that that's like zombie movies though.
Well, yeah, a lot of zombie movies are commentary on society because general citizens could be perceived as zombies.
Which, hard fact, they did not actually. So they started out that way because of George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead, but he never meant for it to be a political commentary on race at all.
Well, I mean, I don't think they're all necessarily about race.
Well, no, so when he made that movie, it was perceived as a political commentary on race because he cast a black dude as the main actor and everybody else was white, right? And when you watch that movie, it is the main character is the smartest person out of everybody because he knows like how to survive, right? So it is essentially a man taking care of a bunch of stupid people because that's essentially what it is. And then, you know, I'm not going to ruin the ending because that really took me by surprise. But the whole thing, everybody was like, oh yeah, it's a racial commentary. And he was like, no, it's not.
That's, so what you're saying is the critics and the people were reading into it the same way our English teachers read into why chairs were blue growing up or why curtains were blue growing up?
Yes. Yeah, they read into it and looked into it too much. And he was like, no.
Yeah, he was just the best actor to pick for this scene or for this movie.
Right, he was like, it had nothing to do with him being black. I don't care. He played the character the best. That's why he got the role. Like, simple and easy as that. But yeah, the critics looked at it and said, oh, this is what this movie's about. Which, I mean, I can see it, but I think that set the tone for zombie movies.
Yeah, it really, like, it made it to where instead of them just being, like, fun movies, they, on average, became more like political commentary or social commentary or...
Well, yeah, I mean, Dawn of the Dead is social commentary. Like, every George Romero film from that point was a social commentary, and it wasn't meant to be that way.
Yeah, exactly. There weren't a lot of specific scenes. There's another scene that I want to mention, but I know that you said that you wanted to mention it as well, and I already stole your thunder once.
Oh, were you talking about how they never say their names except for one time in the very end? Because even when Jesse Eisenberg has his flashback of his hot neighbor, he calls her 406 because he lives in 408, which, I mean, obviously everybody knows this because it's floating around the internet, but that zombie was Amber Heard.
That is not the scene that I was talking about.
Yeah, I know, but I'm going to let you steal my thunder again. I'm trying to go in order because I know what scene you're talking about.
No, I don't. I want you to have it.
No, it's okay. We're going in order. I will go on a tangent, though, and I will say that my problem with this, being an avid lover of horror and zombie movies, Amber Heard was a awful zombie. A lot of these zombies were pretty awful because there were multiple instances where she should have bit him, right? I mean, she jumped on his back instead of just going for the neck. Like, come on.
Well, I mean, that's not necessarily her being a bad zombie. That could just be like the direction that the director wanted it to go.
I mean, I think that she was a terrible zombie.
Right, but are you player hating because you're a hater?
No, I looked at that and I was like, there were ample opportunities for you to do your one job, which was eat people, and you failed at that. Like, most of the zombies, if not all of the zombies in this movie, have ample opportunities. Like, I mean, I'll fast forward real quick to the what is it when they're on the ride at the end of the movie in Pacific Playland.
Oh, the gravity drop thing?
Yeah, when they're on that one and they're up at the top and the zombies are climbing up, there is an instance where one of the zombies could have very easily grabbed onto her and, like, bit her leg.
Right.
But it didn't happen. Why? Why did it not happen?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's for narrative reasons.
Oh, so you're telling me that my old friend, the plot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's for plot development reasons why the zombies somehow managed to fail.
So, okay, what scene do you want to talk about?
No, I'm still gonna let you talk about it.
No, go ahead. You can talk about it. It's okay.
It is 100% all yours.
No, the next episode is mine, and there'll be a lot that I talk about in that one.
So my favorite rule in this is probably rule number 3.
And which one is that? Refresh my memory.
Rule number 3 is beware of bathrooms.
Oh.
And the reason it's one of my favorite rules is because it kind of reflects how I feel in real life.
I mean, I feel that way too, especially. I don't know. That could be a Taylor talk. Do you poop at home or do you poop in public restrooms?
Well, I mean, it kind of reminds me of one of our earlier episode intros when we were talking about how far is too far in regards to diarrhea.
Oh, I see what you're saying now. Never mind. I completely fucked that up. I'm sorry. Continue. Could have been comedic gold. Never mind. Go ahead.
But were there any other scenes you want to talk about?
Well, I thought you were going to talk. Are you really going to make me do this?
Si, senor.
Okay. So the thing that you're going to make me do is talk about this scene.
Yes.
Because you don't want to steal my thunder anymore?
Exactly.
Okay, so what do you have it in your notes as?
I have it as Woody Harrelson's, his murder spree.
Okay, so mine's called Tallahassee's Last Stand. So everything about this whole scene, first of all, the music, which I can't remember what the name of it was because it plays it it says the name in the credits.
Yeah.
I really just liked that. I don't know why. But the music and Tallahassee running around with, his vest on with all of his guns and ammunition and his air horn saying, who wants a piece and come and get me, and giving Columbus the opportunity to go save Little Rock and Orlando, who are stuck atop of the gravity drop or whatever.
I call it a gravity drop. I don't know what it's actually called.
I mean, it's something I'll never ride. Let me put it that way.
You've never ridden one?
I won't. No, I'm terrified of heights. So I have this fear of falling. So I can't do anything like the slingshot one that you do, where you like bungee into the air. I can't do that because of the falling down thing. Just scares me.
No, I didn't realize my co-host was a coward.
Yes, I'm a gigantic coward when it comes to heights and falling.
No, I feel that. That's okay. I'm just being mean.
Oh, I know you are. But he locks himself in a prize booth shack thing in the middle, like it's the only one there, and he puts the cages up and then just becomes the complete and total badass that we all knew Tallahassee was, but we never really wanted to admit it.
He embodies vengeance. He's basically like Batman if Batman was willing to kill people and people were zombies.
So he's the Punisher.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
But for zombies.
Oh, not people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I think I like that scene a lot. I liked everything about that scene.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it just like solidifies Woody Harrelson as like a stone cold badass zombie slayer.
Yeah.
Which we already knew he was. Like Jesse Eisenberg talks about it a lot, how he's like, zombie kill of the week.
Well, I mean, his introduction was, Tallahassee was in the business before it even got started of being a badass. And then you see him walk in with dual-wielding chainsaws and business is booming.
Exactly.
And so you knew.
Right. So the whole movie, like for me personally, especially the first time watching it, not so much this time because it's like my 10th rewatch.
Right.
But the first time watching it, the whole time I was just anticipating when they were going to like release Woody Harrelson Unbridled and Reckless, where he's just like allowed to roll in and do whatever the fuck he wants.
And that's it.
Exactly. And it's beautiful. It's done super well. It's really fun. And then he gets his Twinkie, which makes me super happy.
He does get his Twinkie. And I would like to say that one thing we forgot to mention is that all the slow motion parts were directed by Zack Snyder.
Were they?
No, I just attribute every slow motion to Zack Snyder, though.
Well, so fun fact that I'm totally making up right now. Did you know that every Zack Snyder movie would be 60% shorter if he wasn't allowed to use slow motion?
I mean, it would also be 60% shittier.
I mean, maybe.
There are some really cool slow motion shots in Watchmen that I will defend until the day I die.
Oh, I mean, during Watchmen it wasn't overdone. I'm talking like specifically Zack Snyder's Justice League director's cut. That's like 4 hours long and it's like 2.5 hours of slow motion.
Okay, well, you don't know. That's not the no. You don't like the Justice League. That's why.
No, I do like the Justice League.
No, you don't, because if you liked the Justice League, you would go, this is the greatest superhero movie ever made, because you know that the Justice League would fuck up the Avengers.
So I prefer DC to Marvel
I do too,
9 times out of 10.
except when we're talking about the Punisher.
However, everyone knows that the Justice League is like super easily dispatched by Batman.
We will, this is going to be, okay, we'll get into this
Yeah, we
later.
can't talk about this
about
here.
this now. We will get, oh, you done did piss me off.
We'll throw hands, bro. I don't care.
We'll throw hands after this, all right? And we'll record it. But yeah, I really liked that scene. One thing I also really wanted to talk about, if you're okay with it, is everything with Bill Murray.
Dude, so I was waiting to see who would mention him first. But yes, I would love for you to talk about Bill Murray.
No, I want you to talk about it because there's a couple of specific things that I want to talk about with it, but go ahead because I think everything, like that whole scene, even when they're rolling up and he goes, the BM does not stand for Bob Marley. I thought that was funny.
It definitely was. But I'm also surprised that it didn't stand for bowel movement. That wasn't funny.
No, it wasn't funny at all. That's why I remained silent.
Oh.
I'm leaving that in.
No, I mean, as one should. But no, so one thing that I want to talk about specifically with Bill Murray is how silly his death was. Because everyone, at this point, you've already seen the movie, I would imagine. You already know Bill Murray dies.
And he dies in like the funniest way possible.
No, he dies in the saddest way possible.
No, it's the funniest way possible.
Like, no, it's sad because it makes him seem stupid. It makes him seem dumb as fuck. Because, like, how are you going to dress up as a zombie during a zombie apocalypse and try to scare people that you know have guns while dressed as a zombie? Like, I recognize that it's a practical joke. I recognize that it was supposed to be funny, and it was funny. But if you separate yourself from your suspended disbelief, like, that situation was, like, so silly for him to be in that I'm not saying he got what he deserved. But during a zombie apocalypse, if you dress up like a zombie and then try to scare people by acting like a zombie and then get shot like you would shoot a zombie, I don't know if you can be like, oh, fuck me. Which he wasn't. He was cool about it, but still. It's just, it makes me so sad that he died the way he did because I feel like they could have played it off better and had him get eaten by, like, zombies or something.
No, because Jesse Eisenberg shouldn't have had a gun to begin with. Nobody else had guns.
Everyone has guns.
Okay, but nobody else had guns.
Woody Harrelson, like, literally, like, 2 scenes before that was teaching Abigail Breslin how to shoot by holding her breath while she was firing. Or, I'm sorry, exhaling slowly while squeezing the trigger.
So why didn't she have a gun?
She did.
Why did Orlando, or was it Little Rock? I forget which one's which.
Little Rock is the child. Orlando is Emma Stone.
Okay, that's what I thought. Why did Orlando whack him with a club, a golf club? Why didn't she shoot him?
Plot reasons.
No, because it would have been the exact same thing.
Plot reasons.
If you suspend your disbelief of the plot, it doesn't make sense for her to go at him with a golf club.
Right. I mean, no, I don't necessarily disagree. I'm just saying it made me sad when he died because I feel like we could have gotten a really, really good scene, like the only time throughout the whole movie where they tried to actually scare you, where Bill Murray just gets ripped the fuck apart by zombies. I think that would have been great.
No, because his death was so hilarious. Like, everything about that death was just utterly funny. Like, when he was like, are you dead? No, not yet. Like, and he exhales, that was funny.
No, I mean, I recognize that it's funny. I'm just saying that, like, I feel like it wasn't as good as it could have been. I feel like they made poor plot choices.
Not with that. I don't think that was a poor plot choice at all. I will disagree with you on that one.
Yeah, and I welcome disagreement.
I do too. That's what makes this podcast interesting.
But what else about Bill Murray? Because there are other things that I have to say that I thought were fun, but I don't want to take all of them because I've only got like a couple or one more.
No, go ahead.
No, you.
I want you to do it.
So another thing that I really liked about Bill Murray is how, like, chill he was when he showed up. Because, like, if I was to, like, come into my house even during a zombie apocalypse and there were people hanging out in it, I would immediately probably, like, become hostile. So the fact that he was, like, playing with, like, Woody Harrelson when he rolled up on him instead of, like, being hostile, I thought was cool.
Yes, I agree with that. Now, one thing I do want to talk about is probably one of the funniest scenes in the entire thing. And this is, so do you remember when I said at the beginning that it was a product of its time?
Yes.
Oh, you can hear that. We're going to have to edit that out.
I took the lid off my water bottle and it was slightly too loud. I apologize.
Anyway, do you remember that when I talked about that? Because here's what I'm talking about, it being a product of its time.
Is it the fat shaming that occurs during rule number 1?
And throughout the movie, there is that, but the one that I was specifically referring to is when they're having the car scene, where they're all in the car talking.
I don't know what specifically you're talking about off the top of my head.
Where they switch for who's driving.
Oh.
Okay, because there is a very, very funny part in there where Abigail Breslin talks to Woody Harrelson about Hannah Montana.
Right.
And I feel like if you weren't around at that time, and that was all ad-libbed, hard fact is when they put them in there, they didn't give them a script. So that scene was completely ad-libbed by Abigail Breslin and Woody Harrelson.
Just her explaining who Hannah Montana is and the fact that she's only famous when she's Hannah Montana.
Yeah, and I think that that's like one of the funniest scenes in the entire movie.
I had no idea that wasn't scripted.
No, all the car, like that whole thing where they're doing the montage of the car. The reason that they did that was because they just set them in the car and said, talk about whatever. So everything that they do in that scene is completely ad-lib.
Like I said, I know we talked about this last week, but I still feel like that's how they got a lot of the shots in Hell House.
Yes. Which, that was also like Blair Witch, but that's not the point.
Yeah. Totally irrelevant. But
totally relevant, but that's my hard fact for that one.
Well, that's pretty cool. I was unaware of that.
Yeah, they explained that in an interview. Another thing that they explained in an interview that I thought was interesting was, so you talked about how Woody Harrelson taught Abigail Breslin to shoot.
Yeah.
Well, apparently beforehand, they taught all of the actors that were involved in this how to actually shoot guns, so that way they wouldn't look like idiots.
Well, so see, that's something that's super cool about John Wick, because Keanu Reeves got trained really well before he did that.
Keanu Reeves in that one is just amazing, but...
That's another hard fact right there, coming at you live.
I can't wait to review all the John Wick movies.
At one time?
At one time.
Do a super episode?
We'll do a super episode and go through it scene by scene.
I don't want to do that.
Oh, I do, because I love the John Wick movies.
All right, and do you have anything else about this movie you specifically want to talk about?
I have some bitching.
Okay, I like your bitching. Hit me with it.
Okay, so when they do Pacific Playland, I just want you to know that she barely taps that gate and that lock breaks off way too easy. That lock should not have just broke like that. She barely taps it. She gave it a love tap.
So another thing about that is whenever they flip the switch and some of the rides start automatically, I'm pretty confident that that's not how they work and that all rides are individually operated.
I'm pretty confident too. You're stealing my thunder. It's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that one I don't really care about. But yes, I think that was too, and I also don't understand why there was so much noise. Okay, so there was going to be a lot of noise, right?
Right.
Why on earth would you flip that on and go, ooh, bright lights? I'm going to ride the rides that make a lot of fucking noise.
Well, so I don't actually know, but my assumption would be they thought that if you're having enough fun, it's zombie proof.
Oh, like that lock? Because the lock kept the zombies out, right?
Yeah.
But then they gave it a little love tap and it just shattered into a million pieces.
Yeah.
I think the zombies can't climb fences.
Were there zombies inside beforehand?
No, they all came from outside.
Yeah, so zombies can't climb fences. All they had to do was close the gate.
Yeah, they didn't close the gate and they're like, oh, look at what we're gonna do. We're just like that. I understand that it's what they wanted to do, and the reason that they did it was because Orlando wanted Little Rock to experience childhood because she hasn't in a while. I understand, but it's pretty fucking stupid.
I agree.
Yeah, from a zombie survival standpoint, that's incredibly dumb. I think that a lot of the rules are good.
I think a lot of the rules are actually good for just real life in general. For example, cardio is something that you probably ought to work on. Double tap, something you probably ought to work on.
Well, what's a double tap?
Well, so double tapping can be a lot of things. In this instance, it's, shooting a zombie twice to ensure that it's dead. But double tapping could be, double checking your lock to make sure that your doors are locked before you go to bed at night. And then another rule that I think is good for real life is beware of bathrooms. It's something that I practice.
Do you trust a Walmart bathroom?
I don't trust bathrooms in general.
Have I ever told you the story of why I don't trust public bathrooms?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, so I was a kid, right? And I will never forget this. Has been ingrained into my brain.
Ingrained in the membrane.
If you are not a fan of...
Ingrained in the brain.
If you are not a fan of fecal matter, stop listening now, because I do get into detail.
All right, I'll see you in 5.
But basically, I really had to go to the bathroom, and I will never forget. We were at Walmart. It was me, my sister, and my dad, right? And I had just bought this Deal or No Deal game. It's not relevant, but it's something that I remember. And I was like, "Oh man, I really have to go." And I was gonna hold it, but it has to happen, right? So I get into this bathroom, and it only has 3 stalls, like most Walmarts do, right? The first stall had somebody in it. The second stall had something inside of it. I don't know what. It was like covered in shit.
Was it like a bathroom toilet maybe, like in some horror movies?
Yes.
Oh boy.
And the only thing that was left was the handicap stall. And I was like, well, I don't really want to take this because, somebody that's in like a wheelchair could probably use it better than I could because it has railings and stuff, right?
Right.
But I walked in there and I was like, I can't do the other one. There's like poop everywhere. This one had crusted poop on the handles, like someone had wiped their ass with their hand and then grabbed the railing to get up. So, and it was on the toilet too, but I was like, I'm going to shit myself. So I literally hovered over, like I did not touch that toilet seat. I squatted over it and took the quickest shit of my life and, got out of there. I was like, no. And ever since then, because that image of the crusty poop has been ingrained in my brain, where I have a really tough time using public bathrooms now because of that. Because I think when that happened, I was like 11. So yeah, that's why I don't use public bathrooms. So I agree with that rule in real life. You should always be aware of public bathrooms.
Wholeheartedly agree.
What other rules are on there?
And so another rule that I think is important for real life is actually number 4, which is seatbelts.
Yes.
And it's not just because, the law says you should wear them. It's generally they're protective other than when they decapitate you, but I don't think that happens anymore.
I don't think so either. I think you're more likely to get decapitated by being thrown from the vehicle, but...
So another rule that I think is important for real life is when in doubt, know your way out.
Always.
So I think that this is important in a physical sense of knowing your exits, but I also think this is important in like a emotional or metaphysical sense.
Like if you're in a relationship and it's not going well, you should know when to exit it.
Exactly. Or, when you're working at a job and your employers are taking advantage of your good nature. Like I think it's just, I think it's just a solid thing all the time. And then another one that I think is important is enjoy the little things.
I think that one's very important.
But like the other ones, like, limber up, travel light, don't be a hero / be a hero.
Okay, so let me defend the limber up and the travel lightway. So limber up because I got really bad shin splints when I started running because I did not limber up.
No, you got really bad shin splints when you started running is because you were inactive for too long and then decided to jump right into it.
Yeah, I didn't limber up. You're right. And then traveling, yeah, it had nothing to do with me just jumping into things. And then the second thing is traveling lightly. I wholeheartedly believe that because I don't think that you should pack a bunch of shit if you're going on vacation. Like people pack a lot of, like, have you ever looked at my bag when I travel?
I have.
It's like nothing.
So I'm actually of like a different mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I think anytime you go anywhere, you should call at least one of your friends to drive a U-Haul following you with all of your shit. So if you're going to, like, for example, you're going to like the Bahamas for a weekend or something, you have to get like an amphibious U-Haul so that your buddy can drive it behind the plane so that whenever you get to the Bahamas, like 3 days later, all of your stuff can arrive too. So that way you can set up like, your TV and your couch so you don't have to like use the furniture from the hotel because it could have bed bugs, and it's public bathroom potentially because some people have weird sex. And I'm rambling and I wish you'd say something to stop me.
No, I'm enjoying this. Go ahead, continue with your bed bugs and weird sex.
No, that's all I had. I was just trying to argue against traveling light, but I didn't have anything, so I started making stuff up.
Yeah, because you should always travel light. I mean,
that's fair. I was wrong.
If you get on a plane, your carry-on can't be over like a certain amount or whatever. Otherwise, they charge you because it's the weight or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's why you threaten other people before you get on the plane to put all the stuff in their bag. Like, you're like, hey, empty your bag and put all this shit in it. Like, that's how you get all your stuff on plane. That's science.
Okay, anyway, I will defend those, but the other one, I guess I don't know, I can't really defend that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I do want to talk about before we move on to recommendations is the kill of the week.
Okay.
I just thought that was funny.
The piano?
Yeah, with Sister Agatha.
Yeah.
And she, like, the zombies chasing her, and she just pulls a cord and and drops it. I thought that was funny.
Oh yeah, a zombie pancake. That sounds delicious and nutritious.
I will say when he's talking about the steamroller, and he goes, "You ever roll a tube of toothpaste up from the bottom?" Yeah, of course, I've always do. The zombie's head was a cap. I thought that one was good.
Yeah.
And then, what would you say would be the zombie kill of the week that we actually saw in the movie? That the four of them performed, let me.
So it's really hard to say because there were some really good ones. And because you asked me now and I didn't already have one prepared, I suddenly can't remember if I've ever even seen this movie, which I know I've seen it at least like 10 times. So I really like I really liked a lot of like Woody Harrelson's kills, like in the truck, like when he would like open the door and smack zombies with it.
Well, he didn't kill him. He just.
Right. I would say that's probably my favorite because, but this sounds fucked up because when I drive down the road, back when I had a car.
Oh, you mean like a month ago?
Yeah, before my car was at the shop forever. I'm pretty sure that that's the first movie I've ever seen them open a door and whack something with. And now anytime like I'm driving down the road and I see like people on the side, it always pops into my head, 10 points if I open my door and whack them with it, which I would never actually do unless they were zombies.
So if a zombie was walking down the road, you just...
Oh yeah, I for sure 100% would, because ever since I've seen that, it's like one of those urges I have deep inside.
I mean, that's fair. I would say that my favorite kill is when Columbus is being chased through the haunted house and the animatronic snake, dinosaur, whatever it was, comes out and like grabs the zombie and crushes him. I thought that was really good.
That was definitely solid.
I mean, you could even argue that the clown kill was pretty good.
Yeah.
So I would say that those are probably my favorite. But yeah, the whole zombie kill of the week thing, that was a great bit that they did, and I really appreciated that.
I feel like they should have done it more though.
Yeah, I think that it was only done a couple times, but it should have been done more.
Exactly. Like every scene, they have a conversation about, oh, what was your favorite zombie kill of the week like 6 months ago?
I don't think they need to do that much. I think that it would drag it out and wouldn't be as funny. But if every once in a while, they killed a zombie and said zombie kill of the week, that'd be funny.
That's fair.
So, move on to recommendations?
Yeah.
What do you got?
So, my recommendations, because this is what I would call this a horror comedy.
Yes.
So, I would say Cooties, because Cooties it has Elijah Wood and Allison Pill in it, and it's about zombie children, and the zombie virus doesn't affect adults, and I thought that was a super fun movie, and it's also a horror comedy. And then Shaun of the Dead, of course, also a horror comedy about zombies.
Of course.
And then there are some others that I would say would probably be good, like Tucker and Dale versus Evil, horror comedy, totally different like lane of horror comedy, but still horror comedy.
So you mean like horror comedies in general?
Yeah.
So like Evil Dead
2.
Yeah, you could argue that Evil Dead 2 is a zombie movie, but that's not the point. I would recommend for reading and also for viewing Pet Sematary.
Pet Sematary would be good, although I think that Pet Sematary is a little scarier than this.
I mean, it is, but at the same time, it also deals with death of a child, much like how Woody Harrelson's character, Tallahassee, was dealing with the death of his child throughout the movie.
Buck.
Which was not a dog, even though he claims it was.
Yeah, dude, I actually, I got a little teared up during that when he was talking about it. And, during the scene where Jesse Eisenberg realized that it was his son and not his doggo.
He goes, oh my God, I've been such a bad friend. I never realized.
Yeah, I've seen it 10 times, and I still teared up a little yesterday when I was watching, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize I was a child.
And that right there is the brilliance of this movie, is that it's funny, but it can have that. And then, so we'll go back a little bit. That scene is super serious. And then when he cries, he picks up $100 bills. And
to wipe away his tears. Yeah, that was funny.
And it immediately goes from being this super, super sad moment to straight comedy. Yeah, and it does that transition perfectly. So, yeah, I think for recommendations, just any zombie movie also.
I wouldn't say any zombie movie.
I would say any zombie movie.
No. So, zombie movies I would not recommend if you like this movie.
Any zombie movie that's not funny.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend The Sadness, which is a Mandarin, or a zombie movie in Mandarin, which isn't funny, but it's also a lot more gruesome than this.
Okay, I guess what you're saying. So, yeah, anything that's funny.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't recommend
Train to Busan.
Yeah, no, wouldn't recommend that, although it's super solid.
That's okay. Well, we'll talk about the next one.
Absolutely. And then for Bailey's Babbles today, which I'm pretty confident is the only thing that we have left.
Yes. Well, we got that and then what we're going to be doing, but this is going to be a twofer episode, so.
Twofer.
Two for Wednesday. Anyway.
So for my Bailey's Babble today, so we've already listed a bunch of horror comedies, so it doesn't have to be off of that list. But out of all of the horror comedies, what's your favorite?
Oh, 100% Army of Darkness. Like, no questions asked.
Army of Darkness?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna cheat and say Evil Dead.
Okay.
Because Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness are kind of the same movie, so Evil Dead.
So in your opinion, do spoof movies count as horror comedies?
No.
For example, okay, why?
No, because it's a satire. So spoof movies have their own category.
I would argue that Cabin in the Woods is satire.
Okay, so I misspoke. Satire is fine, but a spoof, like, scary movie has its own. That would be like saying Scream is a horror comedy because it's making fun of slasher movies.
Scream definitely has satire in it.
Right, but it's not a spoof. So
would you consider Scream a horror comedy?
No.
At all?
No, not at all.
Okay, what about...
It's a satirical slasher, but, like, so a horror comedy in my eyes is something that's like, Tucker and Dale, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 2, the Zombieland 2, stuff like that. What you're referring to is a spoof movie, which is its own separate category where the intention is just to make fun of things like it does. Like, Scary Movie is not a horror movie. It is a spoof movie.
No, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree. So, but where is the line drawn, like, between horror comedies and not horror comedies? So what about, like, Ducker and Tell?
Ducker and Tell?
No, what about Tucker and Dale makes it a horror comedy, whereas Scream isn't in comparison? Because they're both self-aware, they're both satirical, they both are meta.
It's the way they wrote it.
Like intentional, like tension building and stuff.
So Scream is like a meta horror in, like, the first instance of it, really. And it is self-aware and does have some funny moments, whether they're intentional or not.
Well, I mean, it's got Matthew Lillard in it, and I'm pretty sure he can't help but be funny.
Right. So it does have those scenes, but at the same time, also, when you look at, Tucker and Dale, or you look at Evil Dead, for instance. So the greatest example is take Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, right? Basically the same movie, just they wrote it completely different, where you could argue that Evil Dead is a comedy because it is so over the top and absurd, but it wasn't meant to be that way. Scream was not meant to be funny. Tucker and Dale was meant to be funny.
So, I mean, I agree with you. I'm trying to play devil's advocate, and that's why I'm having a hard time, but because I do agree with you.
Well, I mean, if you don't agree with me, then please tell me why I'm wrong in the Facebook group.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I have met people who would argue that, like, all slashers are a horror comedy. Because I agree that a lot of slashers could fall into that, especially post-Scream slashers.
Okay, but the reason that they're saying that is because they are looking. That's like saying an exploitation film is a comedy because the absurdity of it and how low quality it is, and, like, the piss poor acting and stuff like that, right? Because some of these slashers have deaths or whatever that are really low budgeted and look funny. And that's why you could say, but you wouldn't go Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one. You wouldn't go that that's a comedy.
I might.
Really?
Yeah, okay, so hear me out on this.
If you say Franklin's over the top acting and, like, that's your only reason, no.
Yes.
No, that's not, because that's just like he's a really bad actor or he was told to do that. I don't know which one, but that movie's not funny, right?
I mean, there are a lot of things that I think are funny. Like, I think the whole, like, dinner scene, which I promise you guys we're not going to spoil Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but the dinner scene in it is probably the most frightening scene in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, I would disagree with you entirely on that.
But it's also probably the funniest scene in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No, the most disturbing scene is the hook. Like, literally to this day, that's the only scene that I still watch and it makes me squirm a little bit. Like, every time it gets me.
So it would probably be more impactful if it wasn't done in almost every single Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot, remake, sequel.
Well, so the reason that I think it's impactful is because, first of all, it was a mess up. Like, you know how they did it, right?
No.
Okay, so what they did was they had, like, a tube that was attached to her back, and the hook would go through the tube, right?
Right, and it was on, like, a brace or something.
Yes, but what happened was when he put her on there, he didn't put her on correctly for that scene. So when she like jolts down on it or whatever, that is because he placed her wrong, and then the tube kind of just fell with her body weight on it, which added to the impact of the scene, because you hear it and you visually you see it, but you don't see it, but in your mind you know exactly what happened. Like, her weight gave out and it caused the hook to go deeper.
Right.
And it was a little mess up, but it made it so much more impactful.
Oh yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about, but I always assumed that it was like intentional.
No, that was not intentional the way they did that. He just set it on wrong.
That's funny.
But yeah, no, like so to get back to the Bailey's Babbles, I think a horror comedy is wrote as a horror comedy.
So you think that it has to be intentional for it to be a horror comedy?
Yes, I think that there are certain parameters. I mean, that's like saying, well, what's the difference between this is like gonna be a really bad example.
Well, I mean, it's subjective. Like, I recognize that it's a subjective question.
But I would argue that it's not a subjective question, because there are clearly defined guidelines, right?
Well, I mean, yes, to an extent, but I don't think that there are like definitions just like for like Zomcom. Like, Zomcom is something that I literally just made up to have a label for movies like Zombieland and Shaun of the Dead. Zombie comedy.
Right. I mean, I guess you can do that, but
Zomcom.
I'm looking at it like, if you take what would be a really good example? If you took 50 Shades of Grey, right?
Okay.
Is that a movie or is it a porno?
I mean, I think that's subjective.
Why?
Because some people who haven't been exposed to what I would consider to be pornography might see that, and in their mind it registers pornography. And I've actually got a real world example of this.
Okay.
Have you ever seen True Blood?
Yes.
So I was...
Oh, so you're doing the HBO. Okay, I get what you're saying.
Well, no, so I was watching True Blood when I was living at the winery, in the living room of the winery. And we had customers come in when I was watching True Blood. Didn't think about it at all, because to me, the sex scenes where you see like nudity and stuff in True Blood isn't pornographic. Doesn't arouse me. I don't see it as pornographic because, for whatever reason.
Right.
So when the family came in, or I say family, there were no children, but when, the two adults came in to sample wine, one of them looked back and saw that True Blood was on and saw titties on the screen and got offended. And I was like, whoa, I was like, I don't understand what the issue is. They're like, you have porn on the TV. And it's literally just a fundamental difference in perspective, because from my perspective, it's not pornographic, even though it's quote unquote sex scenes, because of the amount of detail that's shown and like how much is into it. It's not porn. Whereas they saw it and they were immediately like, this is porn.
Right. I guess my thing is, like, when you look at these clearly defined labels and lines, you look at something like True Blood, and I guess in that instance, yes, you could see it like that, but I look at it as there is no actual sex that is being performed on camera, therefore it is not porn, right? Like, that's like a porno is two people having a sexual intercourse on camera, right?
I mean, that's fair.
And this is not what's happening.
So because it's simulated sex, you would argue that it can't be pornographic.
Yes, 100%. It's a simulated sex scene. It's like, that's all that it is. It's not pornographic. It is an art scene. That would be like saying the nude paintings of people and the nude like paintings of anybody in that position or whatever, that is porn.
Some people view that as pornographic.
Okay, so see, I don't.
Like Michael, the statue of Michael, some people view that as pornographic.
Okay, so see, that's something that I don't understand. That's like, so people view Playboy as pornographic. I don't see that. I think that it has like nude women in it, but what's the difference between that and like the statue of Michael and stuff like that, right?
Right.
Like, they're not in, it's not like Hustler, I would
Or
say.
Penthouse.
Those I would say definitely porn, because it's women in sexual situations, positions and stuff, right? But you don't get that in Playboy. I would say that Playboy is more art than it is porn, which may be a controversial opinion, but...
No, I mean, no, that's fair. And I'm about it, because everything like that is subjective. That's actually the reason I asked this question, because I feel like, especially like the, I want to say contrast, because we're doing like a twofer.
Yeah.
So the contrast in like perspective of what is horror, what is a horror comedy is important, especially going into our next movie.
Right, and I think that's why we did this.
No, it is.
Because of this, but I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm kind of a person that's very black or white.
Right.
I don't really understand gray areas all that well. So because of that, I look at nude beaches. I don't consider that to be like anything sexual. I don't consider,
I don't think it's supposed to be sexual.
but some people would argue with you, right? And say, well, that's like a sexual place. That's a breeding ground.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, that just shows like, which I'm not going to get super into it because I don't want this to become political.
Mm-hmm.
But it's literally just like intentional media repression. And the reason I say that is because if you go to like other countries and stuff, the violence and stuff that we show in like rated PG-13 movies is drastically higher than PG-13 movies in Europe, or the equivalent of, because in Europe, nudity isn't seen as, you know, super like atrocious like it is here. Like here, if something's PG-13, chances of nudity super low, chances of violence pretty high.
Okay, so I'll cut you off and say your example of it is let the right one in and let me in.
That is perfect.
That is, if you were talking about movies, one's a European, one is an American. What is the main difference in that one? There is a scene in the European one, is it Swedish?
I believe so.
Of the main girl whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. Where she is technically a child, but is not because she's supposed to be older. But she's basically nude.
Right.
And that scene is not at all in the American version. So that's just like cultural perspective on nudity.
Exactly.
So I don't think it's like a political thing. I think it's like a cultural thing because there are tons of, and I've never been to Europe, but if you go to Europe, there's like nude beaches everywhere.
Like I said, I may have said political. I'm not trying to be political. I'm just saying like government cultural is probably a better word than political.
Yeah, it's just, well, I mean, it's like, it's definitely a cultural thing because some things that we find odd in other cultures are completely normal. Like the,
Arranged marriages,
we look at that and go, no, that's wrong. That's super bad. And in
some places that's commonplace.
Right. Okay, dipping your fries in mayonnaise.
I mean, I think dipping your fries in mayonnaise is gross.
Right, but if you go to another country where they do that,
it's still gross.
I mean, they don't view it as that, but if you view it as gross, then yes, no matter where you go in the world, you will. But yeah, I think it's like it's just a cultural perspective. Like, when you look at Europe and how their forms of travel are basically no cars.
Yeah, mostly public transportation.
It's like you use the trains, you walk, or you ride around on a moped or like a bike or whatever, right?
Right.
And then you get to America, which I think part of that is probably because most of those countries are so condensed together that you can just take the train, where in the United States we have huge open areas that connect state to state. So it would be a little bit harder to have a train system. But again, I think that's all like cultural. So
absolutely.
But yeah, it's all a contrast. So.
And do you have anything else for today?
No, I don't. I'm ready for our next one. So what are we doing for our next episode?
So for our next episode of this twofer is going to be 28 Days Later, which is a zombie movie as well, but it's on a different...
I would say it's on the opposite end of the spectrum. Like you have a fun, not that intense...
mostly lighthearted.
Yeah, it's a lighthearted zombie movie if you get like Shaun of the Dead or Zombieland, and then you have 28 Days Later. But we'll get into that one with our next episode. And this has been Two Idiots, One Podcast. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Bailey.
Bye.
Bye.